Lumion allows us to add water to a scene. That could be for rivers, lakes, ponds, anything with water that happens to either be sitting or floating in it. To add water to a scene, underneath landscape, select on water. Once you've selected on water, you'll notice that there's actually two separate options for us. One is place object and the other is type. The first thing that you should do is select on type so you can choose what type of water that you want inside of your scene. After clicking on type, we have ocean water, tropical, pond, ice, dirt, and mountain water. And they really look the way that you see here in their preview images. For this example, I currently have the Mississippi River, or at least a small portion of the Mississippi River, here inside of my scene. So what I think that I'm going to do is instead of using something like tropical or pond, I'm going to try ocean. And the reason is that the Mississippi River at some places as far as a mile wide. It's a very big river, has lots of water going through it. I think that the ripples and the general look of an ocean may just look better for this scene. Next, click on Place Object. Move over here, click once, hold your mouse button down. Now, the water is going to be every place that you see this rectangular shape, but we can make adjustments to it later. So make a rectangular shape about the size that you see, then let go. One of the things that you'll notice is that you may see just a tiny bit of water, but not a lot. And the reason is that this water got placed in at a lower elevation than most of the contours that we have available here inside of our scene. But there's an option here called Up. If you click and hold your mouse button down on Up, you can then begin to raise the actual water level. I'll continue to raise my water level up. As I do, we can start to see that we have these areas here, which are the lowest parts of the Mississippi, are starting to fill in with water. It just looks like a little creek or stream. Continue to move the elevation of the water up. Notice how the water starts to flow in and take up some of this area. The water isn't high enough to get to this part of the Mississippi yet, but it's starting to flood into some of these other areas. And on this part of the Mississippi, it actually does do that. Click on that area again, continue to flow the water up. The water will begin to rise. Now, one of the things that you'll notice is that it looks like it's a straight line from here to here. And the reason is that it's only placing water in those areas between the spots that you had clicked. That includes this box here, this box here, this box here. And if I zoom out a little ways by just spinning the wheel of my mouse, we'll see that there's another box up here in the upper corner. Now to speed up that process, I'm going to hold down Shift and the space bar on the keyboard, and then the down arrow on the keyboard to zoom out so I can see the outside edge of this box. Well, below those up arrows, there's also an option there for stretch. If you click on those arrows for stretch, you can then begin to stretch this box so that it only fills up the areas that you'd like it to fill up. So just click, hold your mouse button down, and then pull the box over until the water's pretty much underneath this entire area of where your site is located at. Notice how we have another sort of river coming in over here, and that's just due to the water level. Now I'd like to continue to raise the water level up until this entire area is filled with water, because that's how it actually is with the Mississippi. To accomplish that, once again, I'm just going to click on Up, hold the mouse button down, and begin to drag it up. Notice how the water's beginning to flow into the Mississippi River. Continue this process. Now it looks like we even have essentially a little island out here, which is true. There are little islands out in the Mississippi, as well as overflow areas that come out into other areas. The point being in all of this is that you can use things like your water features by selecting on stretch, holding the mouse button down, and you can adjust where those water features are inside of your scene. You can control the overall height, whether it be dropping it down by moving your mouse button down, or raising it up by moving your mouse up to fill in those areas with water features. Finally, the type is important because the type of water that you use will affect just how clear the water is, how dirty the water is, or even the amount of current that's associated with those water features.